The elevator doors creaked open, spilling its harsh fluorescent light into the dimly lit lobby. I was about to step in when I heard a voice behind me, soft yet firm, like a silk scarf pulled tight. "Go up alone with me," she said, holding the elevator door with one finger. It was my landlady, Caroline. Her voice echoed in the silent, empty lobby, a command that left no room for hesitation. I hesitated, though, caught in the strange allure of the moment. Caroline was a woman of few words, even fewer smiles. She was in her late 40s, with an air of mystery that clung to her like her trademark musky perfume. She had an elegance that seemed out of place in our suburban apartment complex, her tailored clothes always immaculate, her bearing regal. I realized I had never seen her like this, standing inches from me, her breathing steady, her eyes daring me to question the unspoken rule she'd just laid down. The elevator doors slid shut with a soft thud, enclosing us in a space too small for the tension between us. She pressed the button for the top floor, not her floor, not mine. I watched her as she stood close, her presence both intimidating and magnetic. There was a hint of the unknown in the air, a whisper of something that felt both thrilling and unnerving. "My name is Daniel Miller," I said, more to fill the silence than to introduce myself. "I'm 32, an architect." My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, too loud in the cramped elevator. I didn't add that I was currently feeling the sharp bite of loneliness, the kind that gnaws at you during midnight hours and empty weekends. It was a state of being I had grown accustomed to, but at this moment, it seemed to pulse with a new awareness. Caroline's eyes flickered towards me, acknowledging my words with a slight nod. Her gaze was intense, a deep blue that seemed to see through layers I didn't know I had. The elevator hummed softly as it ascended, the numbers above the door lighting up one by one, marking the slow passage of floors. Each floor we passed felt like a step further into the unknown, a journey to a place both within and beyond ourselves. "Why the top floor?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light, though my curiosity was anything but. There was something in her demeanor that suggested this was no ordinary elevator ride, no casual encounter. It felt orchestrated, purposeful. "Sometimes it's good to see things from a different perspective," she replied, her voice low, almost a whisper. Her words hung between us, a puzzle begging to be solved. The idea of perspective, of seeing the world from a height, resonated with me. As an architect, I was used to envisioning things from above, but this was different. This was about more than just physical elevation. It was about rising above the mundanity of everyday life. The elevator shuddered to a stop, and the doors slid open with a quiet swish. Caroline stepped out first, leading the way down the dimly lit corridor. The top floor was unoccupied, a forgotten space with half-painted walls and bare bulbs hanging from the ceiling. The air was thick with dust and the smell of old paint, a reminder of neglect and abandonment. Yet, there was a strange beauty to it, a potential waiting to be uncovered. She walked with purpose, her heels clicking softly on the tiled floor, until we reached a large window at the end of the hall. The window was a portal to another world, a vantage point that offered a breathtaking panorama of the city below. The city was a sprawling tapestry of lights, each one a story, a life, a moment frozen in time. "Look," she said, gesturing towards the sprawling view of the city below, dotted with lights like stars fallen to earth. The city seemed so far away, a different world from this silent, forgotten floor. From up here, the noise and chaos of everyday life seemed distant, almost insignificant. "It's beautiful," I admitted, the view momentarily distracting me from the strangeness of the situation. There was a serenity to the scene, a sense of peace that I hadn't felt in a long time. It was as if the world below was a canvas, and we were standing on the edge of creation. Caroline stood next to me, her shoulder brushing against mine, a whisper of contact that sent a shiver through me. "It's easy to forget the world is bigger than what we see every day," she said, her voice softer now, almost contemplative. Her words were a reminder of the vastness of the world, the endless possibilities that lay beyond our narrow view. I turned to face her, searching for answers in her expression. "Caroline, why did you bring me here?" I asked, my voice tinged with curiosity and a hint of apprehension. There was something in her eyes, a depth that hinted at stories untold, secrets unshared. She met my gaze, her eyes searching mine for something unspoken. "Because sometimes we need to step outside the lines we draw for ourselves," she said, her words both a challenge and an invitation. Her statement was a mirror reflecting my own restless spirit, the yearning for something more, something beyond the ordinary. The air between us seemed to hum with unspoken possibilities, a tension that threatened to spill over into something neither of us could predict. I could feel the pull of her presence, the forbidden closeness that both frightened and intrigued me. It was as if we were standing on the precipice of something profound, a moment that could change everything. We stood there in silence, the city sprawling beneath us, the night wrapping around us like a cloak. The boundary between us felt fragile, like a thread pulled taut, ready to snap at the slightest provocation. I could sense Caroline's internal struggle mirrored in my own, the quiet battle between temptation and restraint. "Do you ever feel trapped, Daniel?" she asked suddenly, her voice cutting through the silence. It was a question that hit too close to home, a reflection of the restlessness I felt every day. The question hung in the air, a truth that neither of us could ignore. "Yes," I admitted, the words slipping out before I could stop it. "Sometimes it feels like I'm living a life I didn't choose." It was a confession, a vulnerability that I rarely allowed myself to acknowledge. But in this moment, it felt liberating to speak the truth. Caroline nodded, her expression softening. "We all build our own cages," she said, her voice tinged with a sadness that seemed to echo my own. "But sometimes, if we're brave enough, we can find a way out." Her words resonated with me, a reminder that change was possible, that the bars of our self-imposed prisons were not as solid as they seemed. Her words hung between us, a shared understanding that transcended the roles we played in each other's lives. I felt a shift within me, a growing awareness of the emotional risk we were both taking in this quiet, forgotten space. It was a moment of connection, a meeting of souls that went beyond the superficial. Just as the tension between us seemed to reach a breaking point, the sound of footsteps echoed down the corridor, shattering the fragile bubble of intimacy we'd created. We both turned, startled, as a security guard appeared, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. "Everything all right here?" he asked, suspicion lacing his voice as he took in our presence on the deserted floor. His arrival was a jarring reminder of the world outside, the constraints and expectations that awaited us beyond this moment. Caroline was the first to recover, her demeanor shifting back to the composed landlady I knew. "Just showing Mr. Miller the view," she said smoothly, her voice calm and collected. Her poise was admirable, a testament to her ability to navigate the complexities of life with grace. The guard nodded, though his eyes lingered on us for a moment longer, as if sensing the undercurrent of tension he couldn't quite place. "Be careful up here. It's not exactly safe," he warned before turning to leave. His words were a reminder of the precariousness of our situation, the thin line we were walking. As his footsteps faded away, the spell between us seemed to break, reality rushing back in to fill the space. The moment we'd shared felt fragile now, a delicate thing that might shatter under the weight of the outside world. It was a reminder that some moments, no matter how profound, were fleeting, destined to remain as memories rather than realities. "We should go," Caroline said, her voice almost regretful as she turned back towards the elevator. I followed, the distance between us feeling both a relief and a loss. It was a return to the familiar, a step back into the roles we were expected to play. The elevator ride down was silent, the air between us charged with unspoken words and unresolved emotions. I could feel the weight of what had almost happened, the line we'd come so close to crossing. It was a dangerous dance, one that could have changed everything in ways neither of us were ready to face. As we stepped out into the lobby, the world seemed to settle back into its familiar rhythm, the spell of the night broken. Caroline paused, turning to face me with a look that spoke of both apology and understanding. It was a moment of closure, a silent acknowledgement of what had been and what could never be. "Thank you for coming up with me," she said, her voice soft, her eyes meeting mine with a sincerity that tugged at something deep within me. Her words were a reminder of the connection we'd shared, a bond that went beyond words. "I should be thanking you," I replied, a small smile tugging at my lips despite the heaviness in my chest. For a moment, it felt like anything was possible. It was a moment of honesty, a recognition of the impact she'd had on me. Caroline nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Perhaps it still is, Daniel. Sometimes all it takes is a different perspective." Her words were a reminder that change was possible, that the world was full of endless possibilities waiting to be explored. With that, she turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing in the empty lobby. I watched her go, a part of me wanting to call her back, to ask her what came next. But another part, the part that understood the fragility of what we'd shared, knew that some things were best left unspoken. As I made my way back to my apartment, the night seemed to pulse with a new kind of silence, one filled with possibilities and unasked questions. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope, a sense that change was not only possible, but perhaps inevitable. The elevator ride with Caroline had been a moment outside of time, a brief escape from the cages we'd built for ourselves. In the end, it hadn't changed the world, but it had changed something within me, shifted the way I saw the paths before me. In the quiet of my apartment, I stood by the window, looking out at the city beyond. The lights seemed to twinkle with a new kind of promise, a reminder that sometimes the most profound changes began with a single daring step outside the lines. The night was full of possibilities, a canvas waiting to be painted with the colors of our choices. As I stood there, the city stretching out before me, I felt a sense of peace, a quiet assurance that the world was bigger than I had imagined. It was a reminder that life was full of unexpected moments, of connections that defied explanation, of possibilities that lay just beyond the horizon. In the end, it was the perspective that mattered, the willingness to see beyond the confines of our everyday lives, to embrace the unknown with open arms. It was a journey I was ready to embark on, a journey that had begun with a simple elevator ride and a chance encounter on a forgotten floor.